All right, guys, I know you've been asking me to do some deep dives on specific perfumers, and I know the names of Dominique Ropion came up, Francis Kurkdjian, Bertrand Duchaufour, Jean-Claude Elena. But I haven't really done any videos on this perfumer, whereas I've done videos on the other perfumers before. Not deep dives, but if you search my channel, you'll find videos for Dominique Ropion, Francis Kurkdjian outside of his Maison Francis Kurkdjian fragrances, Jean-Claude Elena, Bertrand Duchaufour, which is an older video. But I've even done Carlos Benayem, Nathalie Lorson, you name it. But today I decided to do a video on the perfumes of Jacques Cavallier. Are you a fan of this perfumer? So as I was putting my notes together, we ended up around 63, 65 fragrances. A lot of them are from the house of Bulgari and even more from the house of Louis Vuitton. Let me know if you're a fan of the fragrances of Jacques Cavallier. I believe he worked at Firmenich before. And also, as I was putting my notes down together, I noticed there's some issues with the fragrances and who the actual perfumer is. Some databases say Jacques Cavallier is the perfumer, some say some other. So I'm putting it in here just as a warning, and I'll warn you and let you know if I know that there's some issues with the exact perfumer, and I don't want to make the mistake of saying a fragrance is created by a certain perfumer, but as I was doing my research, some of the older fragrances, I should say, came up to be by Jacques Cavallier, or it could be another Firmenich perfumer. So I'm not 100% sure on some of the fragrances, but the majority of them I am 100% sure. There's also going to be some discontinued fragrances. For example, when we get to the YSL section, there's going to be all discontinued fragrances. Well, mostly. And I'll get to those in a bit. But there was also some surprises along the way as well, and some discontinued vintage style offerings that I have here as well. But in the meantime, if you are a fan of Jacques Cavallier, let me know, add a comment below. So I guess I should say he was working with Firmenich up until he got the job in 2016 for Louis Vuitton. I'm assuming he got the job way before, because I actually knew a woman through a friend I had in France who worked for LVMH or Louis Vuitton. I've lost touch with her. And at that time, I had just started doing YouTube videos and for fragrances, and we were talking, and she knew that Louis Vuitton was going to start releasing their fragrances. They launched them in 2016, but I'm assuming they started working on the fragrances, their first launches, in maybe 2015 or as early as 2014, which is kind of sort of around the time I started doing videos in 2012. So, yeah, she was telling me that they were working on it. She couldn't name the perfumer and all that good stuff. And I was anticipating the launch of the fragrances. And I think the Louis Vuitton fragrances are fairly popular. In fact, I think the most popular now is Imagination from the house. But we're going to get to the Louis Vuitton section. I've got everything except for a few. But let's get started. But yeah, do let me know if you're a fan of Jacques Cavallier and any of his fragrances. Add a comment below, and let's get started with the video. But again, one more thing I want to say. There might be some pauses throughout the video. And also, this is one of probably 2 deep dives I'll do. I'm going to do these like twice a week now. One, I want to get through some of the citrus videos that you guys were requesting. Neroli, Orange Blossom, and then also Orange. I think those are the few that I want to do still. And then I think after that, I'll start switching to some more autumn-oriented. But of course, along the way, I'll talk about, certain brands and a perfumer like this and you name it, more of these. And I think you're enjoying these. Let me know if you're not. Add a comment below. Okay, let's get started now. So the first fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is from the house of Alexander McQueen. It's Kingdom. Are you guys familiar with this fragrance? Look at this gorgeous bottle. You can see the whole studio. Anyway, Kingdom came out, I think, in 2003, and I was actually gifted samples from a associate that, well, I've been buying fragrances for a long time. Sometimes I'd go to department stores, and the associates would fill me up with a lot of samples. So I started wearing samples of this, fell in love with it, and I got myself a bottle, and I got my mom a bottle, and it's definitely a really awesome fragrance. Super spicy. And it's got a bit of that BO funk in there, like a cumin thing. But again, it's fragrances like this are not made much. I mean, this is a 2003, so it's kind of like still there's the type of fragrances that they were making that they don't do a lot of. It's a bit on the daring side, you know? It's super intense and super spicy. Like it's a lot of spices are in here. And there's an ambery effect in here, and it does have a bit of a vintage old school vibe to it. And I absolutely love this fragrance. Fell in love with it right away. And on skin, the cumin comes through. It's a bit more sweaty, and it might turn off some people. And along the way, I think there's some floral notes and things like that. I think to me, I can also, well, actually, what I should say is there's a musky undertone in here as well that I'm smelling quite a bit as I'm smelling the strip. And again, that spiciness. I can connect this to something like Guerlain's Bois Mysterio, but not as dry. There's something more syrupy, ambery in this comparison to that. That one's quite dry, but there's something a bit more romantic about this one, and the Guerlain is a bit rough. So there's a sex, but both of them I find super sexy, but this is a bit more smooth, and the other has a bit more roughness. So they're not identical, but I feel like they have similar ideas. Although I think also Kingdom is lacking leather, which the Bois Mysterio from Guerlain had. Sadly, both of these fragrances, Bois Mysterio and the Kingdom, are discontinued. So if you can find them, get them. But to start this list of Jacques Cavallier fragrances with one of my all-time favorite fragrances in a very beautiful bottle as well. Really gorgeous bottle. Sadly, this is a tester, and I had bought a tester several years ago. This was like when the fragrance was on its way out, discontinued and all that good stuff. And it's not in the finest condition, and I don't even have a box for it. So the actual, bottle itself, it's smudgy. And I got to find a way to store this in some kind of a box so I can keep coming back to. So next we're going to the house of Amouage. This is Opus 5 Woods Symphony. I'm having a little bit of a difficult time. Is this individually done by Jacques Cavallier, or was this in conjunction with another perfumer? I can't remember. I think the Reckless Leather is Alberto Moria's and Pierre Negrin, but I think this is solely done by Jacques Cavallier. So Wood Symphony is a kind of oracey, irisy kind of intense fragrance. Also gets a bit musky on the dry down, but there's a lot of woods, obviously, because it's called Wood Symphony. But I don't think you'll notice the kind of funk there is. It's not a strong funk, but there is some kind of a funk under there. But I feel like it's a really nicely made woody fragrance if you're looking for something that's not boring and really exciting, with the powderiness of the iris and orris note in here, the spiciness, and slight muskiness in there as well. It's not super musky, especially on the strip. Definitely one for you to try. This used to be in a different bottle before. I'm glad they moved it into this. They discontinued quite a bit of the Opus collection and left this one and a few others. And they moved them into the uniform bottles because, they used to come in other bottles before. They were a bit more round, a bit more heart-shaped. But that's a great offering. If you like a woody fragrance, definitely try that one. I don't remember exactly when that launched. But next we're going to the house of Bulgari, and we've got a huge selection of Bulgari. Although I should say we're not going to Bulgari next. We're going to the house of Armani. And this is one of the first fragrances that I feel like I'm not 100% sure it is created by Jacques Cavallier. I'm going to talk about it in case it is. It's a vintage bottle, but a tester bottle of Armani's Sensi. You guys familiar with this one? So this is a vintage bottle that I bought some years ago since I'm a collector, but it is a tester, as you can see right here. This is not the OG. You can see tester written right there. So I was looking up some notes for this, and it's a long sought after fragrance. Some people really, really love this fragrance, and they wish they can get it. So I feel like it's white flowers, but let me tell you a little bit about my issues with this fragrance. So Fragrantica says Alberto Morillas along with Jacques Cavallier. Parfumo and Wiki Parfum says Alberto Morillas with Harry Fremont. Base Notes says Alberto Morillas. So I'm not 100% sure who did this fragrance. Whoever did it did a great job. Although my bottle is a bit turned, but there's an ambery effect happening. Is there also almondy effect happening in this? But for sure it's white flowers. Let me know if you're familiar with Sensi, and let me know if you know exactly who it is. Some of these older fragrances, I feel like the databases weren't keeping track of, but I feel like Alberto Morillas is still with Firmenich. Jacques Cavallier, I think, worked at Firmenich. Harry Fremont also worked at Firmenich, so they could have all collaborated on it, or it's kind of a mistake of who did what. Anyway, let's move on to Bulgari now. The first fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is from Bulgari, of course. It's Ate Blanc. So Bulgari has a Thé collection of fragrances. There's a Thé Vert done by Jacques Cavallier-Belletrud. This was the second Thé Blanc. There was a Thé Rouge. There's a Thé Blue, and then I also have Thé Noir here, which is also created by Jacques Cavallier. Between Thé Blanc and Thé Vert, I really love Thé Blanc. It's super awesome. And it's super powdery and musky as well. Well, the only other thing I should say with this fragrance, these used to be eau de colognes. And I reported on it recently when I found out from Neiman Marcus, the associate for the brand, told me they are now going to remake them as eau de toilette concentration. So I still have my eau de cologne concentration. So these launched, and for years and years, they've been eau de cologne. So I don't understand why they decided to change the concentration. And from what I remember smelling them really quickly, after they did switch over, they were smelling similar, but I haven't compared them side by side with the eau de toilette and the eau de cologne, so I don't know. But what I like about the white tea is just really beautiful, very pillowy, soft, a bit airy, ethereal, kind of a clean, musky white tea fragrance. There's probably some light floral notes in there, maybe some citruses as well, but it's super cozy and super relaxing. And again, very pillowy, flowy, ethereal, and musky as well. Really love that fragrance. I like it more than the Thé Vert created by Jacques Cavallier-Belletrud. The Thé Vert, I love green tea fragrances, but that was not one of my favorite green tea fragrances. Something about it just didn't click with me. It was a bit dry and too powdery or something. I don't know what it is about the Thé Vert from Bulgari. I have to come back and sample them now as eau de toilettes to see how it is. But let's move on to the Ate Noir. I'm glad I have this. I bought them like on their way out during the pandemic when there was some extra stock out there. I have the blue as well. The one I really want is the Rouge, which I can't find. Even at that time, I couldn't find it. So the Thé Noir, I feel like, is so different for a tea fragrance. I feel like there's an overdose of patchouli in here. Maybe there's a little bit of rose in there as well. And it acts a bit chypre-like. It's got a super sexiness. The tea is there. You can actually experience the tea, but it's really nicely done with that earthiness. There's a lot of earthy woodiness, which it makes for the fragrance to be really, really awesome. But I don't know if this fragrance is in existence because I don't see it on the Bulgari website. I did see a lot of stock out there for a while, but definitely not on their website. Maybe it's brought back. I don't know. But for me, the Thé Noir is so good. Super sexy. There used to be an intense version of it as well. I've only experienced the Thé Noir, but it's so good, guys. You guys know this one? The Bulgari is back there. And is this an eau de cologne as well? It is an eau de cologne. So yeah. So they don't make this fragrance now. So I'm assuming, this one, obviously, they're not going to put an eau de toilette out of it because it's not in existence. But maybe they'll bring it back. But that stuff is so good. I really, really love it. But to me, it acts more like some other, not necessarily a tea fragrance. It's a tea fragrance in the end, but there's a lot more happening with it where I'm experiencing other notes. that are not necessarily all tea. So next, we've got Azaran from the La Gemme collection. This is Azaran. I've got 3 La Gemme collection fragrances from Bulgari. I don't have any of the women's fragrances, and the one that I've been wanting is called Baciami. I almost bought it in Paris at the airport, but I found something else and still can't remember what it is that I bought. I bought the bergamot from the Art at La Métier Extracts collection, but losing it with what I bought. I haven't had time to research what I bought. But what's going on with Azaran? It's a super spicy, leathery saffron Middle Eastern style fragrance. So it's not Tygar, it's not anything like that, but it's super spicy, and there's an ambery effect, leathery for sure, and very, very Middle Eastern smelling with the saffron. I think it'll satisfy folks that like the kind of ambery, leathery saffron thing. There's a little light hint of something like Tuscan leather in there. I think it's just a given that they're kind of like amplifying the leathery effect in that fragrance. Really awesome. I think I don't speak about it, but I thought it was a limited edition launch. I can't remember exactly. Let me know if that's still selling out there. At least when I bought it, I believe I bought it either at Selfridges or Harrods like 4 or 5 years ago. And but I'm not 100% sure if it's still selling permanently or was it gone. The next fragrance is from the, yes, still the same house, still the La Gemme collection. It's Falkar. There are a few more that I want to buy from this collection, but I feel like it's a bit expensive. If I find a deal, I buy them. This, to me, is very spicy and a bit oudy. And I don't know why I bought this one. I think there was a time when a lot of folks were commenting and saying, oh, you gotta dig into this collection. It's a really great collection. And we didn't have this collection out anywhere for me to sample. And during the pandemic, I couldn't really go anywhere to sample. So this one's not one of my favorites compared to the last one. It's quite spicy, and I feel like there's something green in menthol. I don't know if that's subconscious with the cap, the gem cap. But it's not one that I would pull for that much. Let me know if you're a fan of Falkar. Add a comment below. So the bottles of this collection are refillable, but they never sold refills, as you can see right here. I keep asking the Bulgari department at Neiman Marcus if they're ever going to launch refills. Haven't launched them yet, but maybe it's in the process. I don't know. The prices have gone way up for these as well. And the bottles are also, the presentation is so huge. They have kind of downsized it a little bit, which is kind of cool. But the presentation is just way over the top, too much. I think they need to tone it down a bit. So hopefully they'll launch refills. But my favorite out of the 3 that I have is Tygar. Tygar is super sexy, and it's for sure in the style or in the vein of Jacques Cavallier. This is like a fragrance that he has reproduced multiple. Well, I think there's a little bit of Tygar in Afternoon Swim, but more of Tygar in L'Immensité from the same brand, Louis Vuitton. But it's a great DNA, really super sexy. It's kind of dry. It's really like musky ambroxany, but the grapefruit, there's a zinginess there. There's woods and ambery touches. It's a great scent. Let me know if you're a fan of Tygar. I absolutely love Tygar. But I also like fragrances like Sospiro, Kajal 3, which become a little bit more substantial in comparison to Tygar, which is a bit simplistic when you're wearing it. But it's got pretty good longevity, I would say, not super strong. And the dryness on my skin makes the fragrance not last as long. But the DNA of that fragrance is super awesome. And I can see why people love it. It smells great. It's great citrus, very zingy, very spicy, but, you know, juicy elements as well, and overdosed with a lot of muskiness. Next, if I can find it, we've got a few fragrances from the Magnifying collection. I've got 3 of them. First of which is Bergamot. Recently discussed it in my Bergamot deep dive video. So as I was saying, this bergamot does have a light hint of Tygar, and I was mentioning that there might be a little bit of bergamot featured in Tygar, which they're not crediting. And you can actually use this juiciness of the bergamot magnifying bergamot from Bulgari to enhance or amplify Tygar, to give it more of a juicy bergamot-y effect. So if you like layering and enhancing and prolonging the life of your fragrances, I think the magnifying series is kind of fun. And you can also wear it by itself simplistically. I didn't mention this the last time. The bergamot gives me a little bit of a tea vibe as well. I wonder if it does have some tea notes featured in it. Because in the end, Jacques Cavallier does use quite a bit of tea. Like he does a lot of tea fragrances. There's a lot of tea in some of his fragrances. But the bergamot is so good. If you like it simplistic, this is definitely one for you to try. Magnifying bergamot from the house of Bulgari. Next, magnifying myrrh. So when I first smelled this collection of magnifying fragrances from Bulgari at Neiman Marcus, I fell in love with the myrrh right away. The myrrh is resinous and ambery, bit fizzy, super spicy, and vanillic as well. So for that one, I don't know if I would mesh it with Tygar. I would wear it on its own because it smells really great, but it comes off very simplistic. It's not one of those fragrances. These magnifying fragrances are not going to super project and things like that. They are a bit more personal. But if you like the idea of amber, resins, sweet, kind of fizzy, Coca-Cola-esque, vanillic fragrances, definitely try the myrrh. And I guess I would combine it with Azaran, maybe even Falkar. But, there's a whole collection of these fragrances, the Le Gemme collection. There's one in the La Gemme collection, and I always forget the name. I forget the names of these fragrances because I don't know why. They're not conventional names, so it's a bit forgettable. But there's one with patchouli and jasmine. If I ever get another La Gemme, that's going to be my next one because I absolutely love that fragrance. It's the combination of the patchouli and the jasmine together. And then at that time, I would use the magnifying patchouli to enhance that fragrance a bit further with the patchouli. But if you like a simplistic patchouli fragrance, not super complex, but super sexy, not very ambery, not chocolate cakey, a bit more green, this magnifying patchouli is awesome. So good. I mean, it's a tiny little bottle. Have it at the office. It looks cute, displayed on a table with not many fragrances. And every once in a while, you feel like you need a little spritz of something to kind of boost up your mood. Spritz a little bit of that. Either the bergamot, they got a lot of different ones. They have a musk, they have a vanilla, a lot of different ones. So I don't know if it's a gimmicky thing. I like them. They do work nicely with layering. And of course, if you want to amp up something, you can totally do it. Like if you want to add a little patchouli to the myrrh, you can probably do that as well. Or maybe add some patchouli to the bergamot. You can use the two magnifyings to magnify each other, So, but the patchouli is good. Super sexy. Super, super sexy. Probably my favorite of the three that I have. But it's a given. I'm a lover of patchouli. And then the last fragrance from Bulgari I'm going to talk about is Pour Homme Eau de Parfum. Thankfully, I recently bought a tester from somewhere. It was in one of my long-form haul videos. I'm glad I have this. This was a fragrance that I first discovered through a friend of a friend that I was visiting in New York City back in the mid-90s. But I think it was the OG version, the Eau de Toilette, not the Eau de Parfum. And I've had friends wear it. I never really wore it myself, but I've worn samples, and I'm glad to have this one. This is a tea-focused fragrance. And I think Bulgari does a lot of tea-focused fragrances, or they did. And this one, I think, well, of course, they also had the Bulgari Black, which was that kind of leathery, kind of rubbery bottle. But this stuff was a lot more fresh. That one went leathery and rubbery and smoky. This is very, very fresh and dense and ambery. So it's not like a light and airy tea fragrance. It's got more substantial qualities to it, and I like it. It's fresh still. There's a freshness about it. There's woods and amber under there. some spices, but there's a substantial quality about it. And I think it was shelved for a while and they brought it back, and I'm glad it's back. I love it. It's a great fragrance. Reminds me of the 90s totally. Let me know if you're a fan of that. Add a comment below. And I think they do some great fragrances. As you can see right there, this is their logo on the bottle cap. All right, we're done with Bulgari. Now we've got a questionable fragrance. This is one of those fragrances that I wasn't 100% sure as to who did it. So it's Cartier's Pasha de Cartier. So Parfumo and Fragrantica says it's Jacques Cavallier. Wiki Parfum says Alain Verjou. Base Notes says Alain Verjou with Mark Buxton. So I don't know who it is, but I'm going to just let you guys know about it. It's a fragrance that I really, really love. I love this collection, except for the Sport and the Noir. The Parfum and the OG are my favorites. And the OG is a bit more old school. I think in the late 80s and the early 90s, they were launching fragrances like this. And it's kind of a patchouli forward, super sexy, dense and ambery, but the EDT is a lot fresher than, of course, the Parfum edition that came out in 2020 with that boozy note and the kind of ambery base. But it's an awesome release. I don't know who did it. I can't 100% say it's Jacques Cavallier. The databases are all over the place. So I'm just going to feature it here and let you guys know about it. It is old school, but I like its patchouli, aromatic, fougere, barbershop-y qualities. I mean, it's a barbershop-y fougere style fragrance, but there's a presence of patchouli in there that gives it a very sexy vibe, and I like that. I really love that about that. And that collection is awesome. Cartier did some awesome fragrances, and it stood for 35 years. I think it came out in 1990, the Pasha EDT, and it's been around for 35 years and still, going strong, especially the fact that they launched the Parfum 5 years ago. But again, as I said, I don't care for the Noir and I don't care for the Sport. I feel like those are a bit too generic to me. It's all about the OG and the Parfum. They actually just launched something else recently as well, that kind of smoky vanillic one, which I didn't really love that much as well. I have it. But let's move on to a fragrance that I know for sure that, well, again, it's a bit questionable. It's from the house of Zegna. It's Essenza di Zegna. You guys know this one? It does say it's in conjunction with Alberto Morillas. It makes sense. It's Firmenich. And I think Jacques Cavallier worked for Firmenich back then. I hate it when the little thing in the cap comes off and you're left with this kind of naked sprayer. Why am I getting ozonic touches with this one? I'm not too familiar with this one. I bought it somewhere when I knew it was discontinued, and also Estee Lauder was dropping Zegna. I saw it, bought it. It smells very ozonic and a bit melony, like melons, melon sweetness and ozonic aquatic touches. Not one of my all-time favorites. It's giving me major like cucumber, melon, ozonic touches. I think it's the ozonic notes. Could be violet leaves, could be melons, could be cucumbers. Maybe there's a little apple in there. It's super fresh though, but it's got this fruity vibe in there. What do you guys think? I only have one bottle of this. Again, I only bought it because I'm a collector. It's a really cool looking bottle, as you can see. Wow. I'm not getting, it's not listed as Estee Lauder under there. So I think around 2021, Estee Lauder dropped several brands. One of them was Michael Kors. There was, what's her name? Donna Karan, Zegna got dropped, and they also licensed Balmain and all that good stuff. So at that time, I saw that fragrance. I said, I don't know how long it'll be around. Let me get a bottle. I do have several Zegna bottles, but they're all discontinued fragrances. But the next fragrance is from the house of Estee Lauder. It's called Wood Mystique. You guys familiar with this one? There was the Amber Mystique. Oh my God, the Amber was so good. I don't know who did that one, but this one, according to my research, is done by Jacques Cavallier. This one was not one of the strong ones. It's not one of the ones that I really, really loved. Is there a little bit of a makeup-y kind of a thing happening with Wood Mystique? Something a bit aldehydic. I'm not saying it's a bad fragrance. It wasn't like a favorite of mine next to the Amber Mystique. The Amber Mystique was so good for an Estee Lauder fragrance. This stuff gives me aldehydic touches, a bit of makeup-y touches, which makes sense. It is a ladies' targeted fragrance. I think it is. I'm not 100% sure, guys. But the Amber Mystique, I think was unisex, at least targeted. But super awesome. I love that fragrance. And that I have a backup bottle of, and these are all gone. And this one I decided to get because I had never smelled it, the Wood Mystique. And I'm glad to have it. It's not bad fragrance. It's not one that I would pull for over and over again. But as a collector, it's nice to have. And if you like the idea and the sound of it, definitely check it out. Estee Lauder seems to be launching and discontinuing a lot of fragrances. Do you remember the Middle Eastern collection that had the rose, the saffron, and the oud? That saffron, so awesome. The rose was really good too, but I never got the regular one, the oud one. Okay, let's move on to Fenty. Fenty Beauty, Fenty. I wore so much of this. This is a Jacques Cavallier creation. It's Fenty is a LVMH brand, obviously, Fenty Beauty. And so it's a given that they were looking for a perfumer, and, you know, Louis Vuitton is owned by LVMH. So they kind of work together. So Bulgari is also an LVMH brand. So I guess Jacques Cavallier does Bulgari, Louis Vuitton, and Fenty. But Fenty only has one fragrance, right? It's the only one I got. They did the drop, the initial drop. I never was able to take advantage of this. On the second drop, I was able to buy 2 bottles or 3. This bottle is almost out. Really cool looking bottle too. And the smell is so good. There's a little bit of a patchouli thing. It's fruity, it's spicy, it's floral, but it's super sexy. I wore so much of that for a while. I really love the way it smelled. I think it's blueberries in the fruitiness. So it's not uber fruity. There's a little bit of like Angel, Coco Mademoiselle-like thing happening in there as well, but with a fruitier edge. But again, it's blueberries, so it's not like ultra fruity. But that fragrance is awesome. I think Jacques Cavallier did an amazing job with that. I love it. And it has great projection. Even though it's not one of those fragrances that's like super beefy and intense and it'll never wash off for a long time, it has great lingering power because it has this kind of a patchouli quality about it. And I feel like it's also a bit Chypre-esque. So it gives me those kind of vibes. And I love Chypre fragrances to begin with. So we're done with the Fenty. Now we've got 3 Issey Miyake fragrances. So the first one, I'm not going to be able to spray. Sadly, my bottle is broken. Sadly. So this is the tester version of L'Eau D'Issey Pour Homme. What I liked about this one, it was super spicy with like a licorice or anise thing happening. If I can get a bottle, a vintage bottle of this, that would be great. This one was purchased in 2005, from what I remember. So different than the OG, but I think the one that Jacques Cavallier is known for is this one. This fragrance, L'Eau D'Issey Pour Homme, and I'm not too familiar with the women's. I think he did the women's as well. When these launched in 95, I got a bottle of it as soon as it launched. I think this is what put him on the map. And if you look and study this fragrance, you'll see his DNA in a lot of the Louis Vuitton fragrances, because this is an aquatic fragrance. And there's an aquatic, watery thing happening with a lot of the Louis Vuitton fragrances. But L'Eau D'Issey is such a classic. It's zingy. It's grapefruit. It's juicy. You know, grapefruit, you know, Tygar. Could the formula be similar to this? It's just changed around. He loves the usage of, I think this is not grapefruit though, this is yuzu. And as soon as I smell it, it takes me back to 1995 when I first wore it. I was attending art school, film school, and I was wearing this stuff. And during the warm summer months, this is, it's got that zing that I like. Although it has gotten watered down for sure, it doesn't seem as substantial as it used to be. The zing was a bit more zingy. I like that. The zing was a bit more zingy. But still, you can smell the fragrance. It's juicy, zingy, spicy, watery. Not marine though. This is aquatic. Thankfully, it's aquatic. It smells great. There might be some light cologne-like marine layers under there. But in the end, there's this very juicy, zingy, citrusy yuzu with some woods and spices as well. Let me know if you're a fan of that one. Definitely one of the best fragrances I think he's created. And I feel like he's, moved that experience of that fragrance into the fragrances of Louis Vuitton. But I've got one more here from Issey Miyake. It's L'Eau D'Issey Pour Homme Sport. I wouldn't call this super awesome. I think the OG L'Eau D'Issey is probably the best of the best. It's super awesome. But he did it, and I have a bottle, and I'm going to talk to you guys about it. To me, it doesn't have the zing of the OG. It's a sportier version. It's a watery aquatic thing with some light citruses and some light herbal touches and aromatics thrown in. There's a light minty aromatic thing, or maybe it's basil. And, it's pleasant. It's sporty. So I think what they've done is they've removed or stripped away from too much of certain ingredients from standing out. Because with the yuzu in the OG, it totally stands out. Here, it's a bit nondescript, watery, kind of a fresh fragrance, which makes sense for a sport fragrance. Let me know if you're a fan of L'Eau D'Issey and the flankers. These are all the fragrances I have that this perfumer has created. If there was more, I would feature them. I don't have more. Sadly, also, we're going to get to Louis Vuitton here in about one more fragrance. And that's going to take up pretty much the rest of the video until we get to a few other fragrances. But I guess this is probably on his resume that got him the Louis Vuitton fragrances. What do you guys think? But the next fragrance is from the house of Lancôme. It's Poême, a vintage bottle that I actually featured in a storage unit locker haul video. Storage unit locker. So Poême is a fragrance that my female cousins were wearing in the mid-90s. So I remember it. Oh my God, it's tuberose bomb. And judging from the way this Poême smells compared to Sensi, Poême smells really good. The Sensi did have a bit of a turning effect up top. But this is like major white flowers. Super, super intense white flowers. Do they make this fragrance anymore? I'm not 100% sure. Oh my God. It's like a tuberose bomb, basically. Whew. That's pretty intense. Overwhelming white floral creaminess. Really, really overwhelming. But I think it's an old bottle. It was in a locker room. If you haven't caught that video of the surprise haul, I bought bags and bags of perfume that were found in a locker room. And I don't know how they were stored. Some of the fragrances that we went through in that video, discovering out of the bags, had turned. But that smells good. So it smells really good. And even though it's a white floral note, maybe it doesn't have too much of a strong citrus presence up top. So it's smelling great. Whereas the Sensi, when I first sprayed it, it smelled like it had turned a little bit. Okay, now we're going to Afternoon Swim by Louis Vuitton. So this is the Louis Vuitton section. I don't have every single Louis Vuitton fragrance, but I have a lot. First fragrance is Afternoon Swim. I've spoken quite a bit about this one. It's such a super sexy citrus fragrance with mandarin orange and oranges. With a little light zing in there. And some, I believe there's some ambery touches. I think there's ambergris, but very tolerable amount of ambergris. Mandarin orange note comes off very prominently. And it's on the sweet side, not super tart. But it's such a, I don't want to use the word dumb reach. This is kind of a dumb reach fragrance because citruses to me are not ones that I have to think about. They're not overwhelming. So it is kind of a dumb reach. A lot of citruses are. And this is mostly citruses. This is the kind of fragrance if you no, 20 years later, maybe this got discontinued and somebody had a bottle and it was on eBay, you're going to buy it. You're going to have to think twice about it because that could turn the way it was stored. It's mostly all citruses, so be warned of buying fragrances off of eBay or someone selling it if it's a vintage from 20 years ago that was discontinued and it's all citruses. But to me, it's a great, fresh, juicy, fruity, citrus fruity fragrance. Next, we've got Apogee. This bottle is pretty old and it's turned kind of yellow. I hope the smell inside is okay. I haven't spoken a lot about Louis Vuitton fragrances in ages. Yeah, it still smells good, but it does smell deeper, not turned. This is a Lily of the Valley and Magnolia, juicy, creamy, green, fresh, super awesome, really, really great. I love that smell. It's definitely one of the best. It's like a modern version of Diorissimo from the house of Dior. But once again, all of these fragrances, there is something watery about them, and I always refer back to this. L'Eau D'Issey. I think that was his starting formula, maybe. I don't know. But that fragrance is good. Definitely really, really great. If you like a tart, it's whenever there's Lily of the Valley and even Magnolia, it brings on a tartness. But I think the Magnolia is also throwing in a creaminess here. It's a super awesome fragrance, Apogee. Definitely one of the best feminine fragrances he created. So then we've got Attrape-Rêves. Attrape-Rêves is floral. I think also a slight gourmand edge. Gives me a little bit of like Coco Mademoiselle styling, maybe a little bit of La Vie est Belle styling, but still with his trademark watery dewiness running throughout the DNA of the fragrances. I feel like that's the DNA. At least a lot of the fragrances do, like not the deep, dark, ambery fragrances, although I'll get to them. Les Sables Roses, I think. Wait, is that the right one? Yeah, Les Sables Roses does have that dewy, watery thing, but Ombre Nomade doesn't. Nuit de Faux doesn't. But Attrape-Rêves, I really love it. It's a kind of a creamy consistency of a floral. I believe there's peony and rose in this, from what I remember. Let me know if you're a fan of Attrape-Rêves. Now, this next fragrance, I believe, has gotten discontinued. Is it true? Au Hasard. I always thought this reminded me a little bit of Santal 33 in a different way. You guys get that? Yeah, it's woody. It's fresh once again. It's one of the men's fragrances that launched 5 at a time together. I feel like they launched the feminine fragrances, 7 of them. I think there was another feminine fragrance, an 8th one that came. And then finally they launched 5 masculine offerings. I think it's fine. This is more tolerable than Santal 33. It's got that kind of pickled juiciness that people associate with Santal 33, but I don't get that. But I'm reminded of what they consider the pickle juice. I guess sort of. It's more prominent in Santal 33 though than this. This is a lot fresher, I think. And then this next one's also discontinued. This is Cactus Garden. Another tea-focused fragrance. It's mate, so it's grassy. He does know his tea, but this fragrance, I believe, wasn't loved. Yeah. Watery once again. It's very fresh. It's got greenness, but definitely that mate is providing that grassiness, you know? It's quite grassy the way it experiences, but super fresh. And also, I think there's verbena here, isn't there? It gives me a little bit of Aqua Media Cologne Forte vibes, but in a different direction. Really, I think it's a great fragrance. I think that trio of fragrances that they launched together, Afternoon Swim, Cactus Garden, and Sunsong, were definitely great freshies, luxury freshies. I think people complain about their longevity. Unfortunately, they're not going to last the longest. But probably Cactus Garden is the one that would last the longest, according to the notes in it. Maybe they'll bring it back because they just brought back Sunsong. I don't have the OG Sunsong. I have the OG Sunsong is what I should say. I don't have the new Sunsong. But we'll get to that in a little bit. The next fragrance is California Dream. Let me know if you're familiar with California Dream. This fragrance starts off so good, and then it goes off a cliff on me. It becomes so sharp and metallic, which turns me off. But as the fragrance is first sprayed, oh man, it's so good. So juicy and aromatic and spicy. It gets ice cold and sharp and metallic as the fragrance is going through, you know, drying down. But you know what? I have appreciated more now, because sometimes sharp fragrances are extremely sharp on my nose, and it bothers me. But like there's a lot of juniper focused fragrances that become really, really sharp and metallic and crystal kind of glass like effect. But this is super cold, and it doesn't bother me as much, California Dream. But at one time it just like started really, really great and went super cold and icy and metallic. It bothers me, but I think it's I've grown to enjoy it more. But the next fragrance is City of Stars, and I hope I have these alphabetized correctly. City of Stars, and what's the other one? City of Stars, On the Beach. So I feel like they're reverse named. City of Stars, I remember I got more of a beachy effect. There's a tropical floral coconuttiness and sunscreen-like effect happening here. And On the Beach, which is I'm supposed to get to smelling like this, doesn't smell like this as much. But what do you guys think? Do you like City of Stars? Does it smell kind of coconutty, like tropical island sunscreeny? It's a fun fragrance, but I feel like it is reversed with the other one, On the Beach. Next, Courbattant. It's been a while since I pulled these fragrances. Let me know if you're a fan of Louis Vuitton fragrances. Let me know which is your favorite. And if this is your first time tuning into my channel and discovering one of my deep dive videos, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on the future videos like this. And also please give a thumbs up for this video so it helps with the algorithm. So Courbattant. Courbattant, it's one of those watery fragrances. It's floral based. It's a feminine targeted release. It's slightly fruity, a little apricot-y, and definitely very, very floral and very, very fresh. But that DNA of the watery, dewy kind of DNA that I feel like this is the inspiration for Jacques Cavallier fragrances, because he created that he created that in 95, and this collection was launched in 2016, the first Louis Vuitton fragrances. So 21 years later, he kind of adapted that formula into fragrances like this. But it's a very fresh fragrance, Courbattant. And it's a bit fruity and very, very floral. But the one that I have a little bit of left, and I think discontinued, is Contre Moi. When I bought my first bottle of Louis Vuitton, when it launched in 2016, it was this. Wow, it's turned chocolatey. So first of all, it's a vanilla-focused fragrance. I believe there's also ambrette in this. And it's got a fruitiness from the ambrette. And also that watery thing happening here as well. See, I noticed this DNA in the first batch of Louis Vuitton fragrances, the first 7. And it was very cohesive in that the way the fragrances flowed from one to the other. Even the leathery fragrances had that kind of watery thing happening. But this is really good. I wonder why they discontinued this one. This is really good. Maybe it just didn't sell. Maybe it's not a vanilla fragrance that people like. It's much more fresher, and it's also watery, dewier. So maybe that's what's going on here. But I absolutely love this one. And that's the only amount I have, sadly. So then we have Dans La Peau. This is one of the leather fragrances that was launched early on. it's also a bit fruity for a leather fragrance, and it's very, very fresh. Yeah, it's really fun. And it's just a kind of a leather you can wear outside in the summertime, and kind of giving me that idea of the Kouros that I had in one of my videos recently. It's a Kouros fragrance that was made fresh. It's, even though you've got the intensity, not the intensity, but the DNA of the OG with the leather and the slight musky animalic thing, it's made very, very fresh. It's kind of like that. So it's a very fresh take on a leather. Sadly, I don't know if this is still selling. Don Lepeau, let me know what you guys think, if you do know. And then we've got Étoile Filante, probably butchering the pronunciation of these names. But yeah, Jacques Cavallier has created all these fragrances for Louis Vuitton. But I believe from what I hear, his daughter is kind of stepping in and doing fragrances with him. Is this true? And I believe this one... Wait a minute. Is this the one that was... is this the one that's osmanthus focused? I believe this is the one that's osmanthus focused. But it's very peachy apricot-y. Also very fresh, but they've kind of stripped away the leathery nuances that the osmanthus produces. I like that. Giving me slight melony undertones as well, like melons, but slight, very, very slight, but super fresh. Next, Fleur du Désert. This one. You guys know this one? This is the fourth in a series of the Middle Eastern style fragrances. Of course, there's also the very expensive ones, the amber, the sandalwood, and the oud, which I don't have any of. But I am going to get the amber, by the way. I definitely want that amber. I believe I'll get it on my next trip. I really, really want that amber. I fell in love with it. It's very expensive, so I'll have to get it at the cheapest point I can get it at next time I'm in Europe. But this is kind of like a powdery, rosy, floral with a slight oudy edge. It's very, very powdery. I like it. It's grown on me. There's one that I don't care in this collection, and I'm uncertain if it's still selling. It's extremely cold. It's Nuit de Faux. We'll get to that in a little bit. But next, it's Heures d'Absence. Heures d'Absence. This is, I think, a bit mimosa-like. Is it mimosa I'm smelling? See, this one actually has a little bit like cologne-like wateriness in this. I'm picking up. Is it mimosa or is it... What's another note like mimosa? I'm drawing a blank with the note in this one. It's been a while since I've pulled for it. It's pretty good. Feminine leaning for sure, but this is the one that's been very, very popular lately. Imagination. So, honestly, I gave you guys an honest review. I didn't care for this fragrance at first. Just thought it was boring. But it's grown on me so much. Fragrances do grow on you. And this also reminds me a little bit of Cactus Garden. Cactus Garden is a tea fragrance. Imagination is a tea fragrance. So, I can't remember exactly how, but did they discontinue Cactus Garden and then launch Imagination? Or did Imagination launch first and then they discontinued Cactus Garden? I'm not saying they're identical. There's some DNA in this Imagination that is super sexy, which I don't find in the Cactus Garden. And I wore it the other day. It wears very light on me. I wore like a lot of it. Like I had some clients and I wore it like night and day. I had to replenish quite frequently, so it goes down quite fast. But it's a good DNA, just not substantial. And I think people that like fresh fragrances are really happy with that fragrance. Especially it's because it's also super sexy. So that's Imagination. Oh, I've already gone to the next page. This next fragrance is Le Jour se lève. Super crunchy, fruity, floral. Very fresh and dewy once again. Let me know if you're familiar with this one. I think he does some good work. I love that. The apples in here, the fruitiness in here is super crisp. And it gives you a little bit of a cooling effect, even though we're dealing with like a fruity floral fragrance with juicy effect and creamy undertones as well. Super awesome fragrance. If you don't know this one, try it. Le Jour se lève by Louis Vuitton. It is feminine. Maybe it leans slight bit feminine, but I think a man can totally pull that off. Here we have Les Sables Roses. So this to me is a rose overdose with a light oudiness. And I mentioned in another video recently, I said you can layer these two, this one and Ombre Nomade together to balance it out with oud and balance out the Ombre Nomade with rose because it doesn't have a rosiness. But in this one, it's got that kind of slight cologne-like watery effect happening. Something slightly marine is in here, and I pick it up quite a bit. It's like I'm very sensitive to it. But it's not overdosed where it's not wearable because the rose in here is super awesome. Juicy, bright, slightly fruity rose. And again, mixing it with Ombre Nomade, I think it's a great layering duo. Intensifies the fragrance. Next, it's L'Immensité. Now, this L'Immensité does remind me a little bit of Tygar, but L'Immensité is juicier in comparison to Tygar. To me, comes off drier. Do you guys get that experience? Do you like L'Immensité or do you prefer Tygar more? L'Immensité also has a nice masculine, freshy DNA that it could be mixed up with something like Acqua di Gio, maybe slightly. It's not marine, but it has a bit of that kind of a thing going for it. There's also Sur la Route, which we'll get to in a little bit. That gives me a little bit of a modern Eau Sauvage kind of a DNA. But next we've got Métier Noir. Métier Noir is a little bit like Angel, I think. It's kind of chocolatey. Wow. This has gotten deeper and smells delicious, actually. It's patchouli, it's floral, but a bit chocolatey. And I think it's the patchouli in there that's giving me that chocolatey vibe. But also, it smells a bit like Contre Moi. A little bit. But that same DNA is there. That, not marine, but the dewy, watery DNA is there for sure. That smells so good. It's quite fruity, and it does come off a little bit like Angel, but not so super close. And it's just really, really great. That's really awesome. Métier Noir. Then we've got Meteor. This is also another tea fragrance, I think. Right? Between Meteor and Imagination, I prefer Imagination. Meteor to me... Meteor to me reminds me too much of a throwback 90s fragrance for some reason. It gives me the idea of, what is the fragrance from? Azzaro Chrome. It gives me a little bit of that. Whereas Azzaro Chrome is sharp and metallic. This is more rounded and softer. So again, it's a bit throwback to like the 90s or something, which it's not like one of my all-time favorites. But then we've got Milfaux. You guys know this one? This was one of the OG fragrances. I believe they launched with 7 fragrances in 2016. This is also fruity, and I believe it's also leathery. This might be discontinued, or is it Don Lepeau that's discontinued? Or maybe they're still selling, I don't know. I haven't been to a Louis Vuitton boutique to look through their fragrances in a long time. Although I did stop into the Louis Vuitton somewhere in France, and I smelled the new Elves, which I do need to buy a bottle of. I don't have here. Really fell in love with Elves. I didn't really care for the previous fragrance they launched. What was that fragrance? I didn't like it, so I didn't grab it. But I'm going to pick up Elves. I'm not sure if I'll pick up Sun Song, but I definitely want to pick up the Amber from the expensive collection. But Milfo reminds me of Don Lapo. It's a fruity kind of a leathery thing. All right, next we've got one of these fragrances, Myriad. So this, whatever the bottle cap is, designed by Frank Gehry, I believe, correct? I believe these are also extrait de parfum concentration. Is that true? I don't know. I can't remember exactly, but I believe that's the case with these. Still, you get the watery effect with these. This is a kind of a funky animalic oud, though. Ooh, that's pretty stinky, pretty skanky. But once again, it's got that freshness that his fragrances have, that kind of watery dewiness. You guys like Myriad? Let me know. Add a comment below. Let's see what's next. Next up, it's Nouveau Monde. Nouveau Monde was one of the men's fragrances. It's quite animalic as well. It's leathery and oudy, I believe. But it's done nice. I much prefer Nouveau Monde over Myriad, but I can tolerate Myriad too. It does develop into becoming funkier and funkier for sure. Let me know if you're a fan of Nouveau Monde. I know some people were triggered by it. I remember when I was featuring it in videos, people mentioned it's too animalic or it smells like, you know, I won't say the words, but let me know. And then we've got Nuit de Faux. This is the fragrance I felt like it was a bit too cold. This one also launched around the same time as the Gucci one that was similar to this. What was the name of that one? Although this is a little better than the one from Gucci. I'm just drawing a blank with the name of the Gucci one. It's an incense kind of resin amber thing. But this one actually has matured and it's gotten quite nice. I can smell the resins, I can smell the amber, and then there's some smokiness there as well. And there's a brightness along with all the darkness. Nuit de Faux. That's actually quite good. Let me know if you're a fan of it. My nose changes all the time. Sometimes I'm not liking something, sometimes I come back to liking it. Or maybe it maturates and macerates and smells better. I don't know. But my nose changes. But you know, it's not with every fragrance. It's the ones that I'm not 100% on board with. But this next one, Ombre Nomade, has been a huge hit for Louis Vuitton as far as a designer oud fragrance goes. Is it a real oud? I'm not 100% sure. It's not at all animalic, so this is an eau de corde most likely. It's slightly fruity and ambery in there. And again, as I said, this layers so wonderfully with Le Sable Roses. The two together are like a match made in heaven. Husband and wife, and they make a really, really awesome combo. Don't want to drop any bottles here. So the next fragrance is On the Beach. As I said, On the Beach to me should have been what's inside City of Stars. City of Stars should have been what's inside On the Beach. But that's not what we got. On the Beach to me smells much more fresher, much more citrusier, and maybe some citrus floral notes in there. It's quite juicy. Invigorating and aromatic as well. Yeah, I don't get that. It does have a bit of that kind of cologne-esque like styling. Super fresh and citrusy. And I think it probably... What do you guys think? I've always noticed this. Don't you think the juices should be traded for these two fragrances? It's bothering me, as you can see. Okay, next we've got Orage. There was a rumor recently that this Orage is discontinued. Is this true? I hope not. This is definitely one of the best from the house. This is one of the 5 for men that were launched when they launched them together. It's patchouli. It's a bit vetiver. It's fresh. It reminds me a little bit of Tempo, a little bit of vetiver and patchouli from Montal. It's sexy. It's it's got a great lingering power. It's patchouli, but it's not like super dense and chocolatey. It's a bit green. Really, really awesome. I hope it's not discontinued, but patchouli is a bit polarizing, I guess, to some folks. Then we've got Pacific Chill. This was the last in this series that was launched. It's like a fruit smoothie, fruit juice, fruity. Smells good. It's got, herbs in here as well. So it's basically like you go walk into like a Jamba Juice or a fruit juicing establishment, and all that stuff that they've been juicing and blending together. It smells like it in there. It's usually also cold in there, nicely air conditioned when it's hot outside. So that's the kind of vibe it gives me. It's fun. It's grown on me more and more. I like it. There's a succulency about it as well. It's kind of thick and dense, which acts like a fruit smoothie. Let me know if you're a fan of Pacific Chill. And if you guys recall, when I opened my bottle on camera, the bottle wasn't attached. It was funny. I mean, the cap wasn't attached. This is Rose de Vence. This is one of the first fragrances, the first 7 that was launched. Dewy rose, basically. Really dewy rose. Watery, fresh, juicy, jammy, fresh and dewy rose. Super clean. It's for the person that likes clean, rosy, floral fragrances. The next is Sunsong. So I have my OG bottle. I'm not sure if I'm going to get... I have another bottle of this, because it was discontinued and everybody was so mad and disappointed. Got myself a bottle, but it's basically citrus flowers come to life with juicy citruses. So I think there's citron or maybe lemons in here with citrus flowers like neroli, orange blossom, but really nicely done. I did notice there was a slight difference with the new version. I think what they might have done is maybe modernized it a little bit. This does have a light classic leaning touch about it, but I love it. Let me know if you're a fan of Sunsong. We've got about four more fragrances from Louis Vuitton, but the next fragrance is Sur la Route. This is a bit Eau Sauvage-like. Eau Sauvage, classic men's citrus aromatic fragrance. Very clean. I love it though. I mean, it's just citruses and herbs together with some maybe slight musky, woody touches, maybe some light amber in there as well. But mostly it's about the citruses and the aromatics. It's a bit green as well. And totally gives me like a modern Eau Sauvage kind of vibe, or that kind of a family of fragrances. Might not be the most popular, but I love the way it smells. Sur la Route. Let me know if you're familiar with that. See, we've got way too many bottles here. I got to get a much bigger table if I'm going to continue doing these. Next, it's Symphony with another Frank Gehry cap. Okay, I'm losing places to put down things. This one to me, it's a freshie. Doesn't seem like it might be something super concentrated, unlike Myriad, which it's got that kind of funky, slight animalic oud in there. This is a freshie, a bit candied, and floral, and fruity once again. Between the two, it's much easier to wear between this one and Myriad. But I don't get that thickness that I thought these fragrances were extrait de parfum. Am I wrong? Let's see if I can figure it out with the bottle. Doesn't say. Nope. Okay, I paused the video to go get the box for one of them. It does say Extrait de Parfum, and to me, Myriad acts more like an Extrait de Parfum in comparison to Symphony. But Symphony seems a lot more fun and playful rather than the seriousness of its animalic qualities of Myriad. Next, we've got Spell on You. I put a spell on you. So we're almost at the end of our Louis Vuitton section of the video, which is mostly about Louis Vuitton here, since Jacques Cavallier has been working at Louis Vuitton since 2016. But as I said, I think he started working on these fragrances, or the launch of these fragrances, probably all the way back in 2014, because they launched just as summer was starting in 2016. I remember I got invited to go preview the fragrances and all that good stuff. And Spell on You, I'm drawing a blank with what it's all about. It seems a bit fruity and floral, but very fresh once again. It's that dewiness that we came to find in a lot of the fragrances here. It's the watery effect that he perfected in here, in L'Eau D'Issey, or maybe L'Eau D'Issey for women, as well as the L'Eau D'Issey Pour Homme. I'm not too experienced with the L'Eau D'Issey for the women. I should probably just get a bottle to have on hand to kind of refer back to once in a while. But I feel like the watery aquatic thing is kind of like brought on to Louis Vuitton with a lot of their fragrances. But I'm not 100% sure with what the Spell on You smells like. You guys know, add a comment below. And the last fragrance I'm going to talk about is Turbulences, which is a tuberose focused fragrance. And this was also one of the first fragrances that were launched from Louis Vuitton. I think it's tuberose and jasmine together. And I feel like there's a little leathery undertone here as well. But I quite like it. There's a little bit of the idea of apogee in here, because it's reminding me a little bit of it. But I feel like since apogee is also white flowers or green flowers, there's probably, you know, touches of each inside one another. But I feel like Turbulences is a bit more, it has a bit more depth with kind of a leatheriness in the dry down. This is a bit more challenging. I think it's a little bit more funk here with this fragrance. All right, so that's the last fragrance in the Louis Vuitton section. And then we've got some fragrances from a few other brands, and then we've got a YSL section, and the video will be over. But the next fragrance is from the house of Roger and Gallet. It's Gingembre. So on my very first trip to France, Paris, in 2006, that was the very first time I went on a trip there. I stopped into a pharmacy for something, and I saw the Roger and Gallet fragrances there. I'd known about them before, but not very experienced with them. I bought a bottle of Gingembre in the OG bottle way back then. Fell in love with the idea of the ginger, and I've been a fan of it now, but I just was looking it up, and it says it's discontinued, sadly. But this one is very zingy, does have a bit of a ginger ale-like effect happening, and it's very fresh. It's very light. I thought this was an eau de cologne, but it says eau de toilette. It wore very light on me. If you like the ginger ale-y kind of fragrances, this is definitely one for you to try. I've worn so much of it. I feel like this bottle that I have is a bit lighter as well. I felt like it was a bit more prominent, a bit more substantial. I don't know if it's because it was reformulated, but Roger and Gallet, when I remember first discovering them, I don't think it was with L'Oreal. It is now with L'Oreal or under L'Oreal. And if you ever visit Paris and go to the Rue Saint-Honoré, I've been mentioning, that street is becoming Perfume Street. All of the big brands have stores there. Matière Première, Nichané, BDK, Ex Nihilo. There's a L'Artisan store. There's a Diptyque, Serge Lutens. So many. And there's also a store for Roger and Gallet as well. Further down, away from the Place Vendôme. And you can go and check out their fragrances. I know Francis Christian has done some fragrances for them too. But this one I really, really love. It's a favorite of mine since almost 20 years now. But it did say it was discontinued, and it is acting a bit light here as well. Maybe because I'm smelling so much stuff. But it's a great freshie, very zingy. It's a gingembre from the house of Roger and Gallet. All right, the next two fragrances, we have a bit of a discrepancy with who the perfumer is. So we've got two Tom Ford fragrances. First of which is Noir de Noir. One of my all-time favorite fragrance creations. Love this stuff so much. But according to my notes, Parfumo says it's Harry Fremont and Jacques Cavallier. Base note says Harry Fremont, Jacques Cavallier. Fragrantica says Harry Fremont, Jacques Cavallier, and Olivia Cresp. Wiki Parfum says no perfumer. I don't know who it is, but this seems like Jacques Cavallier was involved in this. And what I love about this one, it's a chocolatey, kind of a dark rose, very mossy. It's a Chypre style for sure. It's super amazing. One of the best smells ever. And I like the way because it's got this, what do you call it? Truffle, which is basically the truffles that grow underground like mushrooms. So it's got that note in there. So it's got an earthy element about it. Very mossy, but it's got a very creaminess. And I wore so much of this in the middle part of the 2010s. I used to get so many compliments, but definitely one of the best fragrances ever created from the house of Tom Ford. Or I should say from anybody, because it's such an awesome scent that Tom Ford's one of the best, one of the OG fragrances from Tom Ford, and definitely one of the best ever created. Now this next one is still a bit unfamiliar. This is Tom Ford's Tuscan Leather. So it looks like Tom Ford was using Firmenich perfumers back then. They use a lot of Givaudan perfumers now. But this one actually, it's a bit more confusing. Parfumo says Harry Fremont and Jacques Cavallier. Base note says Harry Fremont. Fragrantica Wiki Parfum says no perfumer. So there's no perfumer mentioned. So I'm not sure who it is, but definitely one of the best leather fragrances ever created. A saffron forward, spicy, dark, greasy kind of a leather fragrance that's probably one of the best leather fragrances of all time. What are your thoughts on Tuscan Leather? Are you a fan? Let me know. Add a comment below. But again, I don't know exactly who. This one I think is a bit more of a toss-up. I feel like Jacques Cavallier was for sure involved in the creation of Noir de Noir. I'm not sure if he was the only one or if he did it, in collaboration with somebody else. But with Tuscan Leather, it's a bit uncertain as to who did this fragrance, but I wanted to highlight it just because his name is listed. But if you guys have the deets on those two fragrances, let us know. Add a comment below. Next, this one's also a bit of a toss-up. It's from the house of Versace. It's Blue Jeans from the Versus series of fragrances. So this one in Wiki Parfum and Parfumo, it says Jacques Cavallier. In Fragrantica and base notes, it says Jean-Pierre Bertouart. I don't know who did it exactly. But this is like an amber fougere style. It's a bit aromatic, but a lot of people say Coca-Cola. It's got this kind of a Coca-Cola fizzy effect happening. But to me, I get that idea, but more like a flat Coca-Cola. It's not as fizzy, It's quite sweet and almost like you've opened up a can of Coke and you left it there and it's gone flat and you tasted it. Didn't taste that good. But I like this one. I actually was a big fan of the Jeans series of fragrances from Versace. I'm not sure why this is the only one they left, because there was the baby blue jeans that I really love that got discontinued. There was the black jeans, red jeans, all of these fragrances. I think the red jeans is still selling, and I believe the red jeans is for women as well. But anyway, there was a great collection of fragrances, but the only one existing for men is the blue jeans, and I believe for the ladies it's the red jeans. And so that's pretty much it. Now we're moving on to YSL, and then after the YSL fragrances, this video will come to an end. Again, it turned out to be a very Louis Vuitton focused video. But let me know what your thoughts are on the fragrances so far that I've discussed. Add a comment below, and let's move on to the next fragrance. We're going to start off with this one, M7. And we've got the second one, M7 Oud Absolu. So let's talk about the OG first. So this was a fragrance I believe Tom Ford, while he was working at YSL, was responsible for the creation of. And Jacques Cavallier was responsible for creating. So that bottle has actually not been kept very nicely. It's also a tester, I believe. This was sent to me by a fan a long time ago, like probably like 2013. So I've had it for 12 years. And it smells like this kind of a very Western oud, probably very heavy on the cypriol. Do they have that? So on the bottom here, it says bergamot, agarwood, vetiver, and amber. But I am picking up cypriol here quite a bit. It's citrusy as well, but not a tart citrus. It's a soft, kind of a sweet citrus. And it's ambery there as well. It smells really, really great. I think if this is a fragrance they launched back then in 2001 is I think when this launched, I think this definitely was really groundbreaking, but that got discontinued and then they moved it into this collection. And here it says mandarin, bois de oud, patchouli, cyst, and myrrh. So they changed the formula a bit, I guess. Is that true? So they changed the name as well, M7 Oud Absolu, but my bottle doesn't say Oud Absolu. Mine says just M7. I thought it was called M7 Oud Absolu when they moved it into this. And why did they change the notes? It smells very similar. Wait, that's not the right one. Yeah, very similar. Although I feel like this bottle is a bit more, it's a bit more brighter. And then the OG bottle was a bit more, subdued or muted. But it's a really nice, pleasant Western take on oud. It's super sexy. Yeah. So I think this fragrance now in the Oud Absolu version is no longer on the USA website, but I believe there's availability of this fragrance at the discounters. I believe it's still on the French website and they're still selling it, which is cool. But if you are in the market for something like this, it's an easier to wear oud. Definitely get it because I think it's a great, great fragrance from the house of YSL and Yves Saint Laurent. But again, I don't understand why I don't have Oud Absolu written on my bottle. They changed the bottles so many times. I don't know what's going on, what they did. But let's move on to the next fragrance. This is YSL's Opium Pour Homme. And as I was saying, I have a bottle of the Eau de Toilette. And I was looking for the bottle of the Eau de Parfum. And a couple of you messaged me that you have a bottle that you're willing to sell. And one of you was here in the USA, and I bought a bottle of the EDP. Now I have the EDT and the EDP. So this is awesome Jacques Cavallier creation, but not in his traditional style, you know? So this came out around the same time as L'Eau D'Issey. So different in styles. I think the aquatic movement was in full swing in like the mid-90s, but also there was a spicy movement also in full swing. You know, Declaration by Cartier, Boucheron, what's the Boucheron fragrance? Jaipur that you see here. And this. What I like about this is the star anise. There's this unique spiciness of the star anise that adds a booziness to it that I absolutely love. And it's definitely here. And of course it gets ambery in the dry down and woody as well. but it's warm and spicy, but just a unique smell with that star anise or licorice kind of notes, because I think that I find those notes a bit similar to me, but this is good. This one is still selling in France. I noticed it recently, but definitely not on the USA website, so it's discontinued here. Let's smell the EDP now. This is a 50 ml. I'm happy I have one of these. I know one of you guys has another bottle in Europe, and let's hope we can figure out a way for me to get that bottle as well. So with the EDP, it's much deeper, but also there's a slight, it's a lot more amberier too, but there's a slight fizziness here. Oh God, this is so good. Love, love, love it. So good. I'm so happy I have one. Thank you so much. It's good. It is delicious. Oh my God, that's good. Have you guys tried this? Opium Pour Homme in the Eau de Parfum. I absolutely love that. It smells so much better than the EDT. I mean, they smell identical, but it's deeper and richer, kind of creamier and amberier. Love, love, love that. They don't make fragrances like that anymore, man. They don't. And then we've got 3 fragrances left, but I actually only wrote down 2 versions of it. Rive Gauche Pour Homme. And we've got Rive Gauche Pour Homme in this version. And we've got the Intense version as well. So I did not write down the Intense on the sheet, but I'll put it in the info box when I put the video together on YouTube. But let's smell the OG first in this really cool bottle. So Rive Gauche was a fragrance my mom wore in the 70s, the feminine version in the blue and silver bottle. When they launched this, I was like, oh man, now I can have my own bottle. This came out in 2003, I think 2 years after M7 did. And sure enough, I had my own bottle, as you can see. And it was a really nice, spicy, soft, spicy, green, barbershop-y fougere fragrance. I loved it. It's got the herbal qualities. It's got the spicy qualities, the woody qualities that you like in green-leaning kind of fougere barbershop-y fragrances. But, there's other fougere fragrances that are out there. This one had that licorice anise thing happening as well, which made it a little more, slight booziness, which I always get from that kind of a note. But so good. Really, really awesome. It's the idea of a fern, obviously. It's a fougere. Here we have the Intense version. Honestly, though, I didn't really find too many differences between the two. Look at this. It's a bit deeper, though. That's the Intense. But I love that smell. I love that DNA. Again, Jacques Cavallier, even though we don't have a lot of different brands, a lot of Louis Vuitton, Bulgari, he's created some amazing fragrances, honestly. And then now I'm going to compare these two to the one in this bottle. I think it was around 2019 when I found out this was being phased away. And I was bummed. I was really bummed. For a while, I thought that At the Barbers by Maison Margiela was a great alternative. Yeah, but the DNA of this fragrance was much better than that. Even though they're very similar, I think the addition of the anise or star anise note that's in here made this fragrance smell a lot better than that, which is what I like here. But honestly, though, this is the OG. This is the Intense. This is the new version. The Intense has gotten quite intense. For a while, I thought that they weren't too different between the Intense here and the OG, but it's gotten quite intense. It's a bit more substantial, but the new version in this square bottle is quite light. Awesome DNA, and a great way to end this video with a really awesome piece of fragrance making from, I think, an amazing perfumer. He does some great work. I know a lot of the Louis Vuitton fragrances do seem mass market, but after going through this video, he's done a lot of great work. And I think he continues doing a lot of great work. It's interesting that he got the job for Louis Vuitton, because I'm assuming that was up for a lot of different perfumers, and something must have happened, and executives at Louis Vuitton or LVMH thought this is the guy that's going to do our fragrances. Maybe it was all because of this fragrance. The wateriness of that fragrance gave way to the wateriness of the Louis Vuitton fragrances. What do you guys think? Add a comment below so I can find out. But after going through all these fragrances, what is the one that you really love? What are the fragrances that I spoke about today are ones that you wore? And what are you wearing today? Like, did you wear Rive Gauche? Did you wear Opium Pour Homme? Did you wear or still wear L'Eau D'Issey? What about Kingdom? Kingdom is awesome. And then this fragrance, Noir from Bulgari. Such a great fragrance. So good. And about the ones that I spoke about that we're not too familiar with as far as who the perfumers are, if you have info on those, let us know. Add a comment below so we know exactly. Again, the databases are not correct or uncertain. That's because maybe back then they didn't have all the details, and somehow some of them left it blank because they didn't know. But there are mistakes there. I've noticed that there are mistakes here at the databases having the wrong names of the perfumers. And I apologize if I've ever mentioned a perfumer working on a fragrance that they never did because the database claimed that they did. So I apologize in advance. But sadly, that is out of my control. I look at not just one database. I look at all the databases to make sure we have the correct story on a lot of these fragrances. But if you have the correct story on some of the fragrances we're uncertain about, do let us know. Add a comment below. But that's about all I have for you today. This hour-and-a-half long overview of some of Jacques Cavallier's extensive work in perfumery. If you have any questions or comments, guys, please add below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, also please subscribe and click the bell icon so you'll be notified for future videos. And again, please give a thumbs up for this video. And let me know which perfumer you want to see a deep dive of next. Any specific notes you want to see a deep dive of? Any genres of fragrances you want to see a specific dive of? Any brand overviews that you want to see a specific deep dive of? Let me know. Add a comment below. Again, thanks so much for watching today's video. I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.